He was a pathetic loser whose life changed when he was told to clap the daughter of a very wealthy man. Junichi is an incompetent idiot who became the fiancé of Yuyuhi after he stole her first kiss. Yuyuhi doesn't like the idiot, but ends up living with him and is on a mission to prove to her father that Junichi is too worthless to become her husband. While the two lovebirds always argue, they find it hard to confess their true feelings to each other. While walking through the streets, Yuyuhi bumped into some retarded degenerates. She tried to apologize, but they forced her back and made her glasses fall off her face. When they saw what she looked like, they started thinking through their sausages and tried to force her to have some fun with them. When Junichi showed up, one of the delinquents recognized him as the Geno killer and they ran away. Yuyuhi wanted to thank him properly, but her butler came to take her away. When she asked for his name, he just waved his hands and walked away. Junichi got back home to his nagging sister, Minato, who acted like a creepy stalker. She took pride in the fact that she knew whatever her brother was thinking. While playing video games, Junichi had a crazy dream, then woke up and started regretting the fact that he didn't ask for Yuyuhi's name. It was his one chance to stop being a pathetic loser, and he missed it. The next day, he and Minato went to school and attended the opening ceremony, where the student council president, Mitsuki, got all the degenerates repeating after her like mindless zombies. After the ceremony, Junichi went to class with his friend, Fuyuhiko. Their teacher, Seijiru, was a mentally disturbed man who liked to pick on Junichi and make disturbing remarks about him. Seijiru welcomed Yuyuhi as the new transfer student to their class. She immediately referred to Junichi as the Geno killer and got everyone in the class to have the wrong idea about him. Yuyuhi was seated beside Karen, who told her to come by if there was anything she didn't know. As soon as the teacher left, everyone surrounded Yuyuhi like she was the eighth wonder of the world. Karen stopped everyone from breathing down the new girl's neck while showing off how much of a spoiled brat she was. She offered to show Yuyuhi around the school, but Yuyuhi got up and asked Junichi to go out with her. Sadly for him, she just wanted to go out for a cup of coffee, which meant that Junichi was still going to spend the rest of his days being a good-for-nothing idiot. Yuyuhi thanked him properly for saving her and asked what the origins of his Geno killer nickname were. Fuyuhiko and Tsukasa explained that Junichi was a crazy delinquent back in middle school, but outrageous rumors began to spread, and he became an urban legend. After that, Junichi and Minato went home together and talked about how Yuyuhi was a spoiled brat while they were poor peasants. The next day in school, the students kept teasing Yuyuhi about her relationship with Junichi. The foolish boy walked into the class and misunderstood the situation. He ended up stealing Yuyuhi's first kiss, and she nearly made sure that he wouldn't have offsprings for his stupid act. That evening, Yuyuhi showed up at his house and said they'd start living together. She called herself his fiancé, which meant he was going to clap her cheeks soon enough. Yuyuhi explained that she moved to a new school because she heard that her fiancé would be in Junichi's town, but she didn't expect him to be a complete nincompoop. Meanwhile, a weird brat known as Nagomi was narrating Yuyuhi's kiss to someone over the radio, and she made it sound like an explicit scene. In a flashback, it's shown that Yuyuhi's family had a custom of marrying off the females to whoever the head of the family decided on. Her father had sold her off to Junichi's family to maintain there. She decided to live with Junichi to prove to her father that he was a worthless scum from the gutter. While he was about to get beaten to a pulp again, Junichi got a call from his father, who said that he had a new fiancé. Minato tried to put Yuyuhi in their dad's room, but it was filled with a lot of weird items. Yuyuhi ended up sleeping on the couch because she wasn't about to give up her purity on Junichi's bed. The next morning, she looked like she was ready to meet her maker because she still couldn't believe her reality. She and Junichi got into a reckless argument, so Minato had to stop her brother from harassing the poor girl any further. When he got to school, he wanted to kill Fuyuhiko for making him defile Yuyuhi's lips. After school, Yuyuhi and Minato went to the shopping mall to get items for dinner. Yuyuhi was amazed by the mall and Minato's shopping savviness. She was eager to pick out items in Minato, but it was obvious that she was completely oblivious to what commoners ate. When they got home, Yuyuhi kept fiddling with all the items in the kitchen and being a nuisance to Minato, who was trying to prepare dinner. After dinner, Junichi had a good feel of Yuyuhi's melons because they tripped over each other when the lights went out. She blamed him and put him in a headlock, but it only gave him a better feel of her honkers. She ended up sleeping in Minato's room for the night, and their friendship grew closer. While they chatted, Minato mentioned that her parents made her live in the jungle and she had to fight wild animals while studying. From a picture in her room, it's revealed that her deranged parents were the ones completing a mission on a train earlier. The next day in school, news broke out that Seijiru took the day off. Some students found it weird because he was one of those annoying teachers who never knew how to take a break. Karen tried to get everyone to study in his absence, but no one paid attention to the foolish girl. Mitsuki then called Junichi and all his friends from the speakers and told them to come to the old school building. When they got there, Junichi complained about being used as an underpaid slave, but he still couldn't resist the little girl's charms. Mitsuki then told them to look for Seijiru in the old school building because that was where he was last seen. Junichi noticed that Yuyuhi and Karen were eavesdropping on their conversation, while Mitsuki was happy to have more slaves to do her work. When they got inside, Tsukasa and Fuyuhiko decided to torment Karen with scary stories about the building. Since they had a reasonable number, Tsukasa suggested that they break into teams by drawing on straws. Junichi and Yuyuhi ended up on the same team, all according to Tsukasa's plan. They ended up arguing as they walked together while Tsukasa was taking pictures of them. When they got into one of the rooms, it looked like they were going to lay it down on each other, but neither of the two idiots wanted to accept their feelings for each other. Nagomi interrupted them with her weird attempt at being scary and said that she wasn't going to let them clap each other. She got them to pull a lever, and they fell into a pit trap. Yuyuhi landed on top of Junchai, and they assumed the position of people who were experienced in clapping each other. They tried working together, and she got on his back to try and reach the trap door, but she couldn't. Next, she got on his shoulders to try again, and Junichi's face was trapped between her thighs while he tried not to let his white seeds explode everywhere. Junichi lost his balance, and they fell to the ground. With no hope left, they cuddled to get warm and pass the cold night. But Junichi reminded Yuyuhi of their first kiss. Because of this, she started pummeling the foolish boy, and they got into another argument. Seijiru finally revealed himself from underneath a blanket, and explained that he had come to the old school building because he had been kicked out by his landlady. At the same time, Minato and the rest found them, thanks to Nagomi. Junichi and Yuyuhi arrived at school together, which made people more suspicious of their relationship. Karen invited all her classmates to a house party, but Junichi showed no interest in wanting to party with spoiled brats since he was a broke loser. Later on, she gave Minato an invitation, and this caused Junichi to show up because he was dragged along by his sister. Minato thought it'd be good for a shut-in loser like her brother to go out and touch some grass. The party ended up being a big cruise ship with a lot of important businessmen and politicians on board. When Karen came out, she saw that her classmates were all dressed like poor wretches. She then handed out a couple of formal dresses to help them look like reasonable people. Junichi couldn't help but stare at his sister's big melons, thanks to the dress that she was wearing. When the other girls showed up, he quickly lost interest, which meant that this foolish boy wanted to clap his sister by all means. He then suggested that Minato should wear a jacket so that other guys wouldn't lay their hungry eyes on her. Later, on their way back from the restroom, the ladies saw that the cooks were seasick and unable to prepare any meal. Yuyuhi offered to help but ended up being the most incompetent piece of garbage in the entire kitchen. Minato took over the kitchen, while Yuyuhi went back to help out at the party. After serving the food, Minato put on a show for the guests by slicing up tuna. Karen felt the spotlight was being taken from her, so she put up her own performance by fighting against someone in an octopus costume. Everyone felt that Karen's idiotic performance was utterly stupid, but Yuyuhi was the only foolish person who got scared. Yuyuhi ran out to the deck and mistakenly activated the fireworks when she tripped. This sparked a fire in the party hall, but everyone was able to evacuate safely except for Minato and Yuyuhi. Junichi found his sister and told her to leave the hall while he went to search for Yuyuhi. When he found Yuyuhi, she made sure to press her melons against his body before they both ran out. Back in school, Karen threatened to invite them to another party again. In Minato's room, Yuyuhi teased her about her relationship with Junichi and said it was more than just sibling love. While Minato was trying to defend herself, Junichi walked into the room and asked his sister to go on a date to the movies. Yuyuhi read the situation wrongly and decided to tag along to prevent the two siblings from clapping each other. On their way out, Minato faked a phone call and said she had other plans, which made Junichi and Yuyuhi go on a date together. While Minato went shopping, the two lovebirds were at the movies. On their way out, Yuyuhi mistakenly spilled her ice cream on a man's clothes. Junichi came to her rescue and dragged her out, making her feel like a Disney princess who was getting saved by her foolish prince. Mitsuki caught them sitting together in the park and tried to steal Junichi with the allure of her thighs while waiting for the rest of her friends. Upon hearing this, Junichi quickly left with Yuyuhi to avoid an even more awkward situation. After that, they went into a photo booth where Yuyuhi made it look like Junichi was touching her inappropriate places. On their way home, Yuyuhi's hat flew off onto a rock and Junichi went to get it. He mistakenly fell into the water like a fool, causing Yuyuhi to panic. She called a taxi back home and tried to give him some medicine, but just ended up acting like a mentally disturbed fool. Luckily, Minae got home and treated him with a bowl of ramen. When Junichi fell asleep, the girls got into the shower and laid out their melons for all to see while they scrubbed each other's backs. Minato revealed that she was adopted but later played it off as a joke and said she didn't have memories of when she was younger. The next day, in school, everyone was talking about Junichi and his date, thanks to Mitsuki, who couldn't keep her filthy mouth shut. Nagomo also revealed that she was also at the movies with them. To make up for the terrible turnout of events on the cruise ship, Karen invited her classmates and teacher to a hotel resort in the mountains. Mitsuki, along with Aya, who was the treasurer, came along for the trip. Aya said Mitsuki had a terrible spending habit, which would have caused them not to have a student council staff trip. Everyone was impressed by how luxurious the hotel looked. When the girls got changed into kimonos, Junichi wasn't impressed by them except for Minato, who he probably wanted to get under her dress at the moment. Yuyuhi called out the foolish boy's acts on his sister, and Karen promised to get a counselor to reset his dead brain. When the girls were done with their bath, they went back to the boys' room, which angered Junichi. Fuyuhiko tried to cheer him up by rubbing his sausage on his back, further ruining Junichi's image. Karen took it that Junichi wasn't impressed by the hotel's services and decided to take everyone to the VIP hot springs. They were all exhausted after a long hike up the mountains except Minato, who had been a savage wretch throughout her childhood. They got there and found out that the hot spring was a mixed bath. While they were getting ready to have fun in the bath, Seijiro was playing games at the arcade like a pathetic loser. The girls continued to tease Junichi as they figured out how to get into the bath. They suddenly heard the sound of a bear, and Minato used her jungle skills to go and investigate. After a while, they went to look for her and found her melons out in the hot spring with the bear family. When the bears left, everyone got into the bath, with the boys on a different side and the girls on the other side. The girls started making happy noises as they touched each other inappropriately, and this got the boys' sausages eager to see what was happening. By the time Junichi gave in to the temptation, the girls had left. The girls continued to tease Yuyuhi about her relationship with Junichi, while he and Fuyuhiko only had their sausages to themselves. Back at home, Minato continued to be a wonderful housewife to her brother, while Yuyuhi was an incompetent piece of garbage. Their school was having a cultural festival, and Yuyuhi with the rest of her classmates opened a yakisoba cafe as their contribution to the event. Junichi didn't want to be part of their team because Yuyuhi's cooking could send the dead to a different world of torment. Junichi was suddenly captured by Nagomi and taken to a dark room, where he met Mitsuki and Seijiro. They said he was going to undergo training to protect the festival but made it look like he was about to undergo some kind of mutant experimentation. Meanwhile, Yuyuhi's awful cooking had sent most of the students to the underworld, and the stupid girl was too dumb to realize it. Karen helped out by bringing a set of high-class ingredients. With that, they were finally able to make something edible, but the process left the rest of the students close to their graves. Tsukasa started teasing Yuyuhi about Junichi again and figured that she was trying to make something that would suit his tastes. When they opened up their restaurant, not a single person bothered to come and taste their lousy food. They were competing with Minato, who also had a yakisoba stand with the tennis club. Their tennis outfit caused everyone to come to their stand because they couldn't resist trying to look up their skirts. Fuyuhiko got Karen and Yuyuhi to dress up as cat maids to attract more customers. But the only thing they attracted was Fuyuhiko's degenerate fantasies. To win the competition, the girls ended up wearing their swimsuits, and it attracted all the pathetic fools from far and wide. After the event, all the students were called to the school's courtyard. There, the students watched Junichi in his useless Gundam robot suit called the Big Geno Killer as he battled a giant octopus. When the octopus appeared, Yuyuhi was about to piss on herself because she thought the tentacles were going to have her way with her. Junichi's women cheered him on, including Fuyuhiko, who was being a creep. He didn't even get the chance to fight because the robot suit crumbled as soon as he took a step. On their way home, Yuyuhi beat him up because he wanted to satisfy his urges by looking at her swimsuit photos. Tsukasa conducted the school sports event because Mitsuki was sick. While Yuyuhi ran during the relay race, she refused to take the baton from Junichi, who was dressed up as an octopus. Jun tried to force his tentacles on her, but Yuyuhi refused to be defiled. Minato laughed at her stupid brother who got trampled by the other runners, and her laugh made her melons jiggle around like a water balloon. On their way home, she showed Junichi and Yuyuhi an embarrassing photo of the both of them, which she planned to use for a cultural festival contest. Junichi got tired of Tsukasa's tease and decided to reveal some embarrassing things about her past as well. He also brought up her dream of wanting to be a voice actress, which put an end to her teasing. When she got home, Tsukasa was happy with the fact that Junichi remembered her silly dream from their childhood. The next day, in school, the students were given a career survey assignment, and Tsukasa decided to apply for an audition and fulfill her dreams. She went to visit Junichi but didn't know that Yuyuhi lived with him. Yuyuhi hid in the closet when she entered the room. Tsukasa asked Junichi to take a picture of her for her audition and said that Minato told her about his interest in swimsuits. He started to imagine his sister in a swimsuit, and how she would look with her jugs in his face. Just then, Minato walked into the room with cups of coffee for them. Luckily, she wasn't wearing anything that would have made Junichi's white seeds spill out all over the room. Tsukasa ended up asking Minato to take pictures of her instead. After a lot of practice, Tsukasa got to the auditions, but she was really nervous. Later on, Junichi met her at their childhood spot, and she told him that she was nervous and her voice croaked like a frog during the audition. She decided to give it a try again after Junichi told her that he liked her singing and dancing. Minato and Yuyuhi met up with them, and they invited her over for dinner. Junichi then went home with his harem, still hoping to get some action one of these days. Tsukasa's photo of Junichi and Yuyuhi from the cultural festival came in first place as the best amity. Yuyuhi was angry that she had to be paired with an annoying idiot like Junichi, and this just made everyone think that they were growing closer. While they argued, Fuyuhiko and Seijiru got into another argument and started competing over who Junichi's sausage belonged to. When they got home, Yuyuhi started applying some white, creamy liquid on her body. Minato then asked for her help to plan Junichi's surprise birthday party. She told Yuyuhi to get a present for Junikia and keep it a secret from him. Yuyuhi was too incompetent to figure out a good present, so she asked for Karen's help. But Karen's tastes were too expensive for the average commoner. After looking through a mountain of catalogs, Karen decided to hire an investigator, which gave Yuyuhi the idea to look through Junichi's personal items. She snuck into his room and found out that he was a regular NEET with no ambitions in life. While searching through, she found a collection of cultured magazines that he probably used to satisfy himself when he couldn't stare at Minato's melons. Her curiosity got the best of her, and she started reading through them while making high-pitched happy noises. Minato caught her snooping around and said that Junichi loved blonde women with big jugs. They started looking through his other collections, while Yuyuhi held back her liquids that were going to spill out. Yuyuhi asked Minato for a hint on what to get Junichi, and Minato suggested that she bake the birthday cake. She obviously knew what Yuyuhi's cooking skills were like, but I guess she had plans to end the foolish boy. The next day, they kicked out Junichi for 3 hours while they tried to bake a cake. Minato gave Yuyuhi a recipe book that looked like it had symbols meant for summoning a demon. When Junichi got back home, he was surrounded by all the women in his life and Fuyuhiko as well. He got a lot of weird presents, especially from his dad. Nagomo wrapped herself up as a present and asked Junichi to do whatever he wanted with her. He finally had the opportunity to have his purity taken, but it had to be from a weirdo. Junichi and everyone else tried the cake that Yuyuhi baked for him. While they all told her how awful her baking skills were, Junichi said it tasted delicious because she baked it for him. Minato got jealous because she wanted her brother to only have eyes for her. Junichi was walking around the house with a towel when he told Yuyuhi that her bath was ready. She told him to cover up well before her eyes would be scarred by his inept sausage, but he just went to ask Minato to give him some of her milk. Yuyuhi couldn't get Junichi out of her head, so she faked being sick the next day. Junichi then stayed back at home because of her to take care of the little brat. She then requested that they redo their first kiss since the first one was a total disaster. As she complained, Junichi went in for the kiss, and they finally confessed their feelings for each other. At the school, the girls teased Yuyuhi about her relationship, and they encouraged her to take her and Junichi's relationship to the next level. Everyone started lecturing her on what would be the best as if they all had experienced banging Junichi before. Karen popped out of a bush and stated that she had become love rivals with Yuyuhi. They all started talking about how much they wanted to clap Junichi, but he was too much of a dumb fool to figure out their feelings. The next day, Fuyuhiko confronted Junichi about his feelings for Minato. He advised Junichi to make up his mind on whose melons he wanted his face to be buried in for the rest of his life because it wouldn't be fair to the two girls if he wasn't honest with his feelings. Later on, at night, Yuyuhi dressed up as a maid and went to Junichi's bedroom, thanks to Nagomi's suggestion. After the awkward situation, Junichi said that he was also confused about what to do after they had confessed their feelings for each other. They were about to have a steamy session, but Yuyuhi ruined it by saying the maid outfit wasn't necessary anymore. The next evening, Yuyuhi left to report back to her father. With the two of them finally alone, Minato fell on Junichi's chest and expressed her feelings for him, but Junichi was still unsure if he wanted to get down and dirty with his sister. When Yuyuhi got back home, she rejected the engagement proposed by her father, saying she'd rather decide on her own terms without being pressured by her family. Upon her return to Junishi's household, she noticed that the two siblings were acting weird. She asked Minato if anything happened while she was gone, but Minato denied it because she couldn't reveal that she was rejected like a piece of shit by her brother. Yuyuhi went to ask Junichi the same question, but he tried to avoid it, and she got angry. Junichi drew her close to his sausage and tried to comfort her worrying heart. She wanted him to love her, and she was ready to expose every part of herself, but she wanted him to do the same and stop hiding things from her. Yuyuhi got angry at Junichi and left the room. A rift started to grow between them, and everyone in the school noticed it. The rest of the girls called a meeting with Minato to ask her what happened between the two lovebirds. Karen couldn't stand the thought of Junichi being inside someone else that wasn't her. Yuyuhi came across the girls talking and joined them, but Karen still let her know that they were rivals. She tried to play off the fight going on between her and Junichi by saying that she was just acting like a typical insane girlfriend. Later on, some men in black suits approached Junichi and said that they were his father's messengers. He then called Minato and told her that he wouldn't be coming home since their parents had suddenly gotten back to the country, leaving her and Yuyuhi alone together. The two girls were really wet, and it wasn't just the rain. After they dried themselves off, Yuyuhi said that she was able to make friends and meet the love of her life, thanks to being in their household. After dinner, she revealed her intention to leave their household and the nullified marriage arrangement. Minato begged her not to leave, but Yuyuhi was tired of being lied to. She told Minato to confess her feelings, and she said that she loved the two siblings equally. Minato finally confessed her feelings about wanting to bang her brother, and Yuyuhi forgave her for trying to steal her man. Yuyuhi blamed Junichi for not being straightforward with his feelings and causing Minato to cry like a little wimp. Minato apologized for her feelings, and the two girls accepted that they were both in love with an idiot. Meanwhile, Junichi finally met up with his parents, who arrived in a fighter jet. His father told him that the men in suits lied to him and tried to abduct him. His mom fired missiles at their lousy Power Rangers robot and destroyed it. They explained that the bad guys were part of a cult that kidnapped children and turned them into lab rats. His parents then got a support call, and they left the hopeless boy there to find his way back home. When Junichi got back home, he was greeted by Minato, who had her jugs slightly revealed from her pajamas. He couldn't stop staring like a degenerate until he suddenly noticed Yuyuhi's presence. Yuyuhi was still angry at Junichi for lying to her, and she decided to break up with him. He tried to calm her down, but he got smacked like a fool, and he left the house that night. The next day, Minato also left the house and told Junichi to decide who he wanted to bang. In school, Fuyuhiko and Tsukasa tried to talk to Junichi, but he said that he didn't understand the way women think. When he got back home, he recalled the time Minato came back a few years ago and decided to become his housewife. That was also the first time that she confessed her feelings for him, and he wondered how things would have turned out if they weren't siblings. That night, Seijiro showed up at Junichi's house on his motorcycle and took him to a beach. There, he was happy to finally be alone with Junichi, but the poor boy wasn't about to let himself get defiled by a middle-aged man. He told Junichi to think about what he had lost as a man and find a way to be true to himself. If not, he would be a lonely fool for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Minato stayed at Nagomi's place. Nagomi revealed that she had been stalking them like a creep for a while, and Minato assumed that she was another love rival. At the same time, Yuyuhi was staying at Karen's place as well. When Junichi got back, he was lonely and got into a conversation with his alter ego, Gino Killer. He thought about his past and the women in his life. With the help of his past self, he was finally able to come to the conclusion that he loved Minato. The next day, after school, he confessed his love to Minato and said he didn't want to lose her. The rest of the girls were happy with this except for the only reasonable person, Karen, who thought that such a relationship between siblings was weird. When they got back home, Minato got ready to wash Junichi's sausage in the bath, but Yuyuhi stopped them before the scene could get any more interesting. Yuyuhi then said that she'd continue leaving with them to prevent them from making babies prematurely.